Rita Hickman. I'm a body mind expert and a shiatsu massage therapist, and I help women who are in toxic and narcissistic relationships really kind of find themselves again. And I'm here with my friend Fanny, who is a sexual trauma coach. And do you want to say one or two things real quick?
Yeah. So I'm a survivor of sexual assault, and I help women who've been through sexual violence heal from their trauma and get over PTSD symptoms and anxiety, depression, all that stuff that comes with trauma, so they can create the kind of lives they love and deserve, and so that their past doesn't affect their life negatively anymore.
Yay! That's quite a mouthful. But, that's one of the things that Fanny and I were just talking about. We meet about 10 to 15 minutes before we start our calls, and we kind of intuitively, tap into each other, and we say, okay, what's going on today? Because whatever is going on with us is what's going on in the rest of the world. And so because we're sensitive, because we're empaths and intuitive, we kind of feel the vibrations around what's going on. We kind of see what comes up, and it tells us what other people are struggling with too. So today, one of the things that came to the surface was the idea of how much partners struggle with women who have had sexual trauma. Many times in those sorts of situations, the only person that's considered in a trauma is the victim, and there's this weird thing. We think like in layers. They had this experiment with a fast food restaurant, and they put healthy menu items on to entice people to come in, and people did come in, but after they came in, they bought burgers and fries instead. Because the idea was we've got like this subconscious checklist that tells us, what our priorities are. And if our first priority is to eat healthy, and we made the choice to go to a restaurant that has healthy stuff on the menu, then we can cross that off our list and go to the next one, which could very well be, God, a burger and fries would feel really good right now, and then, so that's the second thing on the list, and then the third thing on the list. And childhood sexual trauma is so humongous of a thing. Nobody talks about it. Nobody even wants to glimpse at it. I was on a group call, and we were split into small groups, and I was put into a pair of with a gentleman, and we were talking about our stories, what our stories were. And so, I started my story with, I was molested as a kid, and I made this decision at 4, and this is, where I came from. And he had this look in his eyes, like a deer in a headlights, because, and I'm like, proud dude.
I've been there too, because sexual violence is still such a taboo topic to talk about. And
yes.
I think it's because it's so uncomfortable even for people hearing about it. They don't know how to react, and they would rather just sweep it all under the rug and ignore it than have a real discussion about what's going on.
Because it's so scary, exactly. And then it's also scary for the person that loves you. Because they don't want to be your abuser again. They don't know what to do when you come out of the shower and they lit a candle and you totally
get triggered, and they don't want to attack you, but they just don't have the guidelines on how to act and how to make you feel safe and like you're in a relationship.
I have one very specific memory. There was one time where, I was taking a shower before bed. I was getting comfortable. I was finally, because when you deal with trauma, you're under an almost constant level of anxiety. You're always just sort of managing it and keeping it at bay. You never quite forget about it all the time, because even if you're not noticing it, you're trying to avoid having the anxiety come up. So you're doing everything you can to
You're
stay
kind of
not
distracting yourself instead of being at peace.
right, exactly. So, but at the end of the day, in my own home, I just took a nice warm shower. I was in my comfortable PJs. I was, in a good space. And I come out of the bathroom into the master bedroom, and the lights are dimmed. They weren't dimmed when I went into the shower. And there's candles lit, and there's some, great bluesy, jazzy music going on. And I was pissed. I can't tell you how angry I was and conflicted I was, because here's this person who's supposed to care about me and who's supposed to know how I work and who I am, cornering me, basically telling me I have no choice, and that if I want the relationship to go forward, then I need to, then I need,
and
yeah,
put all your own needs down for him.
Right. And you feel ridiculous because you're like, they're just candles. What's my problem?
It's conflicting, because you do realize that there is some of my own crazy going on, but at the same time, the emotions that come up are so strong and so powerful and overwhelming that you can't really do anything about it. It's like looking at yourself from a distance and seeing yourself react and knowing that, okay, it wouldn't have to be this way. I could be fine with this, but still I'm feeling very triggered. And for me, at least, many situations like that, I just started doubting myself and going, am I being absolutely crazy? Like,
right,
yeah.
Why am I reacting so strongly? And so you push it down even farther, because now you aren't just sensitive, now you're broken. Now you need to feel ashamed because there's nothing you can do to stop this reaction, no matter how hard you try or how much you try to stop it. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And shame is such a difficult emotion in those situations, because it says that there is something inherently wrong about me. That's basically what shame is. And shame has been one of the feelings that I've struggled with most during my healing journey and my reconnection with my boyfriend, and finding the road back to love and intimacy. Because I just felt so ashamed that there is something wrong with me. Like, why can't I just be happy that he's interested in me, or finds me attractive, or wants to be intimate with me? And that was really a big struggle for me, getting over the shame and over the feeling of I am broken and there's something about me that's wrong.
Especially if they're a good guy. If they're a good guy, if they're nice, if they're good to you, if they're friendly, if they're kind,
and respect your boundaries and do their best to help you and support you, it kind of, well, that's how I felt. I felt that I was kind of treating him unfairly, because I knew that he didn't want to upset me. He didn't want to trigger me. He just wanted to have love and romance and connection and intimacy.
And here I am looking at him like he's the devil.
Yes, exactly.
And how could he do this to me again? Doesn't he know how I feel? Why doesn't he notice what's going on? I mean, this whole inner drama, and the partners are just on the other side being like, what the fuck did I just do?
Yeah, exactly.
They're completely, like, how did this happen? I don't understand.
I was trying to do something nice, and why am I getting this reaction? And they're doing the best they can, but they have limited resources. They don't understand what it's like going through traumatic events and dealing with trauma. They can do their best to try and understand, but they will never fully comprehend it. So they can't relate to our reactions to their attempts of getting intimacy or being close.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it's a real, and that's why we decided to dedicate this, one towards the partners, because who are the people who have to live with our crazy? And it's not that we are crazy. It's, I'd like to say it in the way of our crazy, as if it's something that we own, but not something that owns us.
Exactly. It's not
You
a part
know?
of our identity. It's more like a brain hijack that takes over sometimes and makes us act in crazy ways.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And so, and then when you add in the idea that nobody wants to talk about it ever, then there's this whole experience that happens, which it ends up wrapped in secrets and and
Mm.
and masks that we
And
wear so people can't see how uncomfortable we are all the time.
mm,
Because you can't just, over coffee blurt out to anybody what you're really thinking, which might be, um, is that man over there a threat to me?
mm,
And do they look threatening? Do they feel threatening? All the while you're holding on, holding a conversation with, which you think you do a darn good job holding up your end while you're obsessing about the fact that you're feeling threatened by this
mm.
stranger you've never met, who nobody else seems to be threatened by, only you. You know,
Exactly.
it's a it's a juggling game for sure. And our partners, because they may or may not really, how can our partners understand our experience? They can't. All
Mm-mm.
they can try to do is have empathy for the experience, but they're constantly going to be doing things wrong
Mm.
because they don't know what it's like to be us, you know?
Exactly. So what I would suggest, what my partner did to me, and what I would suggest to other partners, because it was really helpful, is opening up the lines of communication along the lines of asking that would you feel comfortable at this moment to talk about your boundaries and what sort of touch or approach feels safe to you and what feels off-putting, what feels triggering, and maybe even ask if they're okay with intimate touch that's not sexual, like hugs and slow dancing or massaging your feet, you massaging their feet, or just holding hands in the grocery store, and helping your partner who's dealing with the trauma get in touch with and get a bit more clarity about what kind of touch feels safe and what feels triggering, and what sort of sensations in their body feel pleasant and unpleasant, because trauma can oftentimes make us feel like we're totally out of our bodies. I know that's how I felt like my body was the enemy and I didn't know how to deal with it because I was
It
terrified.
was the enemy. Yeah, exactly. The enemy wasn't out there because you clearly knew nothing was happening to you right now.
Mm,
You're sitting in a chair, there's nobody outside the door, you're split because you're you're present with the idea that you are safe, but at the same time, your body is telling you that you're not safe. And your higher mind is like, what is going on? This is
exactly.
insane. And you feel constantly, chronically betrayed by your
Mm,
own self in trying to keep a handle on it and trying to keep it under control. All the while, you're having a nice conversation about the work day or arguing with someone or at the copy maker. All of this is like going on in this other side part of your brain while you're trying to look like you're a functional, well balanced, confident, secure human being. Because if you don't, then some predator will prey on you. I mean, so
exactly.
it's not about, it's not about authentically feeling confident and centered. It's about looking like you feel confident and centered, so
As the
you don't
defense mechanism.
look like a victim again. So you don't set yourself up to be prey. It's a tricky situation.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
So
So,
how did you start to, in your relationship,
mhm.
shift the dynamic of we're both too uncomfortable to talk about what's going on, and neither one of us understands enough about what's going on to really handle this in a good way? How did you get from there to the deeper, richer, more sensual, amazing love goddess experience that you can have and that you have had, because you've had emotions and senses and everything intertwined? You have had high level peak experiences of connection with
Yeah.
another human being because you have allowed your sensitivity to be a gift instead of a shackle, around your neck. So how did you go from trauma victim to love goddess? Which actually I use that not to make fun even, because when you reclaim that part of your soul, you authentically feel like you can enjoy life at
Mhm.
the deep, deep goddess kind of level. And it feels really good when you can think that way. So how did you go from one to the other?
So actually, I think it all began when I realized I tried to have a conversation with my boyfriend about what sort of touch feels triggering and what feels good. And I realized that I literally had no idea. I didn't know what felt good. I felt completely out of touch with my body. So what I started to do was first do some work on my own. I started realizing which sensations felt good, like holding a hot cup of coffee in my hands in the morning, or
Oh,
taking a
yeah.
long shower, or maybe brushing my hair, or brushing my teeth, or just
Mm-hmm.
maybe massaging my own hands when I felt a little bit stressed. And I
Mm-hmm.
started to first get in touch or get comfortable with touch that wasn't triggering just by myself, like hugging myself, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
stroking my cheek, or maybe when I got a bit further, like putting my hands on my laps and massaging my
Mm-hmm.
thighs.
Because
And
one
I,
of the problems I had was my skin would feel like it was prickly and crawling whenever I was stressed out. And so, you know, come out of the shower again, candles lit, and there are times when you're like, okay, I know this is going to take us 4 hours for me to get relaxed enough to enjoy this.
mm,
So let's, go to sleep for a while I relax, because the problem is my skin would be hypersensitive.
yeah.
And because of that, I couldn't have anything that felt too fast or was too much pressure. I mean,
Mm,
my skin needed to be treated a bit like it was an egg, that someone is carrying. and and if someone doesn't understand how physiologically our senses change when we are when we flip into fight or flight, our body physically feels different. And so people would be like, well, why can't you get excited or interested or anything
mm,
like that? And they try to touch me, and I'd be like, leave me alone, stop touching me, because I can't handle it, because I am going to punch somebody in the face if you keep
mm.
doing this. Um,
I
yeah,
can totally relate to
hypersensitivity.
that. And one thing that helped me a lot was realizing that I have the power to put on the boundaries and to put the brakes on, because I had this feeling that I don't know if I'm allowed to tell that that doesn't feel good, and I was insecure about saying that, hey, we need to take a break now, or we need to stop altogether, because I kind of had this feeling that I'm not sure if I have the right to do that, and am I disappointing them, and am I being a bad girlfriend, and all these other insecurities came up. So what helped a lot was just explaining to my boyfriend that I need to have boundaries, and I'm gonna explain the boundaries to you that I know right now, but there are gonna be a lot of new ones that come up as we go along, some that I can't anticipate right now, and that I have to be able to safely feel that I can put a break on things without you getting upset. So I actually asked him that, could you please tell me that it's okay for me to say no and put the brakes
Yes.
on, maybe for a
Yes.
while, maybe for a week, maybe for just 15 minutes.
Yes. Yes. To take back your right to your own body.
Exactly.
Yeah. To take back your right to your own experience that you're having. Because even if, to the outside world, there's nothing going on, the inside world is you're being re-traumatized. You're remembering every single thing that happened to you, in the worst.
And you feel it physically in your body.
Exactly. And so there's this idea that if you say no, that the unknown will happen, or the same thing will happen.
Exactly.
And the body reacts in that way. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can't stop it. The only thing that happens is you have to heal through it, and you have to work through it. And for partners, watching someone they love go through this, because imagine, this is kind of the men in my life are really, all of them are really good guys. And the problem is they don't know how to interpret how I'm reacting to things. While at the same time, I'm pushing their buttons. I'm rejecting them. I'm telling them that they're no good. I'm telling them I don't want anything to do with them. And so, they're trying to not blame me for my reactions, but and trying to understand where I'm coming from, while at the same time trying to control their own reactions. How courageous of you to open up that conversation with him, because if anybody understands about having hard conversations, if you thought, even if you didn't consciously think, even if it was your body that thought this for you, your body that was fearing this, you were facing, when you talked to him and opened that door to communicate, you were facing your abuser again.
Exactly.
It was the exact same person. Yeah.
Like, it was very scary. It was triggering for sure. But I felt that I have to do it for the sake of the relationship, because I noticed that he was feeling very lost and in pain to see me being in pain. And I realized that I have to go through this discussion with him for the sake of our relationship, and for his sake, and also for my own peace of mind.
Yeah. Because if we kind of have two choices. The choice is to stay where we're at, actually probably three. Stay where we're at, go backwards, or go forwards.
Exactly.
And if where you're at makes you pee yourself and cry all the time because you're so stressed out, it's not a good place to stay.
No,
and you
exactly.
Sure don't want it to get worse. So exactly. It's like you have to have your future self, the self that you want to be, the one who's balanced and patient and compassionate and not doesn't feel out of control, and integrated and aligned, to reach back and tell the younger version of ourselves, it's going to be okay. We just need to help move you in this positive direction.
Yes, I love that. That is excellent. That's something similar I've been doing too. and I did in this situation before I had the conversation with my boyfriend, I asked myself, what would the healed, happy, love life in order version of me who loves intimacy and loves this relationship and loves their own body and their life, how would they handle this situation? And that's something that gave me the courage to start the conversation, because I realized that they would not just swipe it under the rug because it's difficult and painful and uncomfortable. They would grab the bull by the horns, so to speak, and do it even with a trembling voice, even with the tears in their eyes, even shaking and feeling like this is horrible.
Shaking, that's the worst, isn't it? I always knew something was deeply, deeply important if my body would shake while
Yeah.
I was doing it. And because what it is I'm a science geek about this stuff. I really do. I love the science. I love the research
Oh,
around it
go
all.
ahead.
It just completely fascinates me because it makes it repeatable. When you understand how something works, it makes it repeatable. It means that you can do it. You can switch out parts. You can be MacGyver. When you understand how something works, you can MacGyver your own life. You don't have to feel trapped by circumstances anymore. So when we're releasing, when we're shaking, it's because we're doing something different than we've done in the past around an extremely scary issue. And so it opens the floodgates. Instead of suppressing it, we're allowing it open, and it's like a dam that suddenly bursts. And so all of those chemicals that we've kept, locked down come onto the scene like a tidal wave into our bloodstream, and we have this adrenaline release. When my husband had he had a heart procedure within the last few months, and it was the second time. It was simple but not. And when he was in recovery, they gave him adrenaline in order to, make sure that his heart was going to, keep beating. And the adrenaline gave him all of these whole body shakes. So when we flip the switch by doing something different than we've ever done before, by speaking our scariest, most painful things that we couldn't do when we were traumatized, we couldn't do them. We weren't capable of it. We knew it wasn't safe. We knew there was nothing we could do. And we were just trying to control ourselves to get through whatever the pain or difficulty or trauma was. We're revisiting that. And this time, instead of being in an unsafe place where you can't protect yourself, now you're in a safe place where you can protect yourself, which means that all the adrenaline that's just been waiting and causing inflammation and compartmentalizing your brain so that you feel like you're schizophrenic because you've got, 20 different moods and personalities and none of them are talking to each other. And, it's a gigantic tidal wave of adrenaline that hits your body and makes your body shake. And so when you shake, when you're doing something, it's because it's important and you need to be doing it.
Exactly. And that's how animals release stress too. We had a dog who every time after he went to the vet, he would just stand and lie down and shake and release all that built up scary energy and the tension and all those emotions by shaking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it really works.
There's even an energy therapy called TRE.
Yes,
that involves shaking.
I'm going to mention that. That's focused solely on the tremors and the shaking in order to release emotional pent-up energy.
And that's true. And the shaky like that has been around in traditional cultures and shamanic cultures and in more earth-based traditions of where you create a space and a ceremony of healing so that someone can be triggered and release that, in a healthy way. Here's the deal. when something bad happens to us and we can't express it because it's a dangerous situation, and we never figure out, or we don't figure out that we're safe, our body doesn't, figure out that it's safe, then we live under this level of tension that our bodies are trying to desperately control, and it's causing havoc, in our physical bodies, in our physical system. And only when we recognize that we're safe, we do things to remind ourselves that we feel safe, like when you would touch your arm or your face, it reminds your body that you feel safe. And now that you're safe, you can finally release the emotion. You can finally express it and experience it because you're safe. And when you chose to talk to your boyfriend, you said, I am going to choose and believe that I am safe. And by saying that to yourself, demonstrating it, your body was able to heal. Not just cope,
but heal.
Heal. Nice job.
Thank you.
Nice job. So what happened after you would have healings like that? What did you notice in your mind and your body, and in how you related to your boyfriend and how he related to you?
Actually, there was a very big shift. Like, I noticed that I was more comfortable and okay with touch again, because like in the showers, even washing myself had felt somehow triggering, like touching my own body. So I noticed that, okay, I'm becoming more comfortable with touch in safe environments. And there we could go on and have a discussion about, okay, what could be safe environments or these safe mental spaces? What could they be? So like I mentioned, we started with getting used to touching each other again, or him touching me in a intimate but not sexual way. Like,
because you have to know that something.
A few minutes.
Yeah, you have to know that something isn't going to go sexual for you to relax.
Exactly.
You have to be. It has to be understood that nothing, is going to go. There's nothing going on here. We're just enjoying each other's company. And when you know that, you can let yourself start to let go and relax and trust being with someone else again.
Exactly. And then you can get that bodily feeling of, hey, touch isn't bad. It can feel pleasurable. It can feel nice. It can feel loving, because you're in a safe space enough when you know that it's not going to lead to something sexual. So you can just, like you said, relax and let your body enjoy touch.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's one of the interesting things is, a lot of people, they put under the umbrella, the idea that if you have sexual trauma, then it will make you promiscuous. It will, make you go out and not care about yourself and not love yourself and destroy yourself. And, although that can be true for some people in some situations, I think for the majority of women, what happens is they become asexual.
Yes. And they kind of lock away that part of their identity because it feels too unsafe.
Right. And so we cut ourselves off from the things that make us feel good because we don't believe we deserve them.
Exactly. That's a good one. Because I think every sexual trauma survivor I have ever dealt with has had some sort of version of the belief that I don't deserve happiness. I don't deserve to feel good. And I think that is a universal symptom of trauma. I had that same belief, and I thought that it must say something about me. It must be an indication that there is something inherently flawed about me.
Hmm. Well, sometimes it was also just how we were raised. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're raised in a family where, you know, you aren't encouraged to enjoy yourself, you aren't encouraged to do things that make you feel good, and even if it wasn't considered abusive, even if it was just the, you know, the way of the world, it was just the culture, you know, if you weren't taught that it's okay to feel good, then anytime you look at anything that might make you feel good and actually heal you and actually bring you back into resonance is a luxury. It's something you have to earn. It's
Mm,
something that you have to pay for. You know,
exactly.
if you're going to enjoy yourself, you need to pay for it first. You know, what the new science is telling us is that you have to love yourself first, and then you're able to do all of the other things that you want to do. You have got to love yourself first, and from that you can give from the overflow of your teacup, not from the well at the bottom of the, you know, not when there's nothing left. You
Exactly.
have to give to yourself first, and then you've got the resources, the resiliency, the insight, the understanding in order to make good changes in your life.
Exactly. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Hmm. But most women will keep it just the bare minimum. You
Mm,
know, what's the bare minimum of luxury do I get, you know, before I start feeling guilty about it? I mean, we talk about guilty pleasures. Well,
exactly.
you're not supposed to feel guilty about pleasures. You're supposed to find
Mm,
pleasurable things that nourish you. You know, we need to take the guilt out of it. If it nourishes your soul, makes you feel connected, is healthier for your body, then you're able to become almost superhuman, because you're no longer working as if you're as if you're somebody in the middle of the desert under the hot sun without it. You know, you're not destroying yourself and still trying to project the image of being successful and sexy and confident and all of that. Instead, it naturally comes from inside of you because you sincerely feel good. You sincerely feel love, and you know how to get that for yourself because you put down the shame and the misunderstanding that you had to pay to feel good. That's a suffering concept that
mhm.
probably came from the Catholic Church. At least it came from my Catholic Church. You know,
Sorry?
suffering, it probably came from my Catholic Church. Suffering equates divinity, you know, instead of flipping it around and saying you're already divine.
Exactly.
Nourish yourself so that you can be the highest version of divinity that you want. You can be the love goddess that you want to be.
Absolutely. So, should we start to wrap things up? We have about a minute left.
Sounds good. I would love it. This has been wonderful. That's right. I forgot you've got a class today. Thanks for reminding me. Awesome. Thanks for setting a good boundary and reminding me. This was wonderful. Thanks for sharing your time with me. I hope everybody that was, you know, that watched, that listened in, that will watch this later on, I really hope that you start to understand that there's a better way to do this, and it's not surrounded in mystery anymore. It's not surrounded in mysticism and metaphor. It's actually well understood. The
Mhm.
process of healing from difficult experiences that still make your body react like you're back in that experience, the PTSD, there are things to do, and there's a path, and there's a way to do it. And look for people who resonate with you. So if you resonate with me and the work that I do, go to inspiremassage.com and start looking, checking me out. Soon it's going to be ritahickmancoaching.com, but that hasn't changed quite yet. And Fanny, where can they find you if they really like what you have to say?
EraseMyTrauma.com, where I share all the things I wish someone had told me during my own healing journey. So hopefully,
yeah, no kidding,
support and inspiration from those.
Yeah. So what time is it where you're at?
Sorry?
What time is it where you're at?
It's almost 6 o'clock. Yeah, 6 p.m.
Excellent. I'm glad this was early enough for you. Good.
Yes. Thank you so much for
taking
the time to have this beautiful chat with me. And thank you, all beautiful listeners who were here and who will watch this on the replay. I will be sending you all my love, and so will Rita as well. And just remember that healing is a process, but you can absolutely achieve it. And if you are someone who is a partner to someone who's struggling with trauma, remember to be patient and communicate and forgiving towards yourself, because you will make some mistakes. That's inevitable. They will make some mistakes, but that's all part of the growing and the healing and the learning process.
It sure is. Okay, I'll see you later. Thanks, Fanny.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.